Welcome to Passive Aggressive Income. This program may contain strong language. The content may not be suitable for audiences under the age of 17. We understand many of our listeners may not agree with all of our personal viewpoints. We in no way, shape, or form mean to be offensive to anyone. Our show notes will provide all of our source material included for each episode. Now let's get passive aggressive. Welcome back to another episode of Passive Aggressive Income. This is Ep.8. Yay!
Yeah, I cannot believe we've made it this far.
I know, we've been just chugging along and I'm super proud of us and us just doing the damn thing. So we're going to continue on with real estate and the topics that are involved in real estate. And Lexie is going to take the lead on this because this is her expertise. So let's talk about what you got going on.
Yeah, so this week we're going to be talking about how to set up a furnished rental. When you buy a property, or maybe you have one and your long-term tenants have already moved out and you're thinking about switching up your strategy and you think setting up a furnished unit might be kind of fun, which it is fun in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into it and there's a lot of things to consider, a lot of like small details that we didn't really realize were things that we'd have to deal with until we were already in the process. So I'm just going to go over a few of those things that I learned along the way. The first thing to discuss would be deciding on a strategy. We did talk a little bit about midterm and short-term rentals a couple episodes back. So short-term is people are staying for under 28 days. Midterm is the term that I like to use for people who are staying more than 28 days, but less than like your year contract. Maybe people who are traveling for work or are in some sort of transition in their lives and they don't really know what their next steps are, but they need a place that has furniture and all of the things that a home comes with. Also, if you are in a fun area or have some sort of unique experience to offer, vacation rentals. People don't necessarily come to Minnesota to go on vacation. Not like if we were in a tropical place, but all things to consider. And then college
Right.
housing is another thing too. We've been seeing running our midterm strategy. We've been seeing a lot of interns coming, and we currently have a grad student who is staying in one of our units, who doesn't want to like buy a bunch of furniture and lug it over while they're just sort of in this stage of their life where they don't have permanence. And so, yeah, finding a place that's like near a college that has furniture is another strategy that you can do to find people who are interested in furnished rentals.
Yeah, that is, I never even thought about that, but that must be a huge help for those type of people. And I think to myself, for the people that are going through a divorce and maybe they're not being left with a lot of their belongings or like their furniture, what a great transition that is to have that midterm or short term where it is furnished.
Yeah, exactly. Like if yeah, going through a divorce and you're splitting up furniture and like you don't have all of the things that you need and you're not really sure what the next steps are, having a
Right.
place to stay that's just good to go is super nice.
Right.
And also, I know as a college student, when I lived in the dorms for 1 year and then I moved in a house with my husband, who was then my boyfriend, and a roommate. And then after that, we got our own house and we just had like a random collection of like a few hand-me-down things, but we didn't really have the money to like buy furniture new and didn't really have an aesthetic. And so like our place didn't look super nice. And
Oh my
having
gosh.
yeah, just
Yeah.
like being able to move into a house that like looks nice and is good to go takes so much stress off of an already like turbulent point in your life.
For sure, because you're barely an adult at that point, and I mean, unless you're super well off and you have a lot of help, you barely have anything to, furnish your whatever apartment or whatever you're living in. I remember this is how broke I was. My first apartment, I didn't have money for basically anything besides like food, gas, and rent.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a really broke boyfriend at that time, so that didn't help.
Right.
And oh my gosh, I had boxes stacked and like a little tablecloth over it. And that was like a little table that I use in my bedroom. And I think about those days, I'm like, oh, little me.
Come so far.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
But you
that's so funny.
appreciate like those times. And then I'm sure if I had if I knew what midterm rentals and short-term rentals were, I'm sure that would have been such a blessing
Yeah.
to be able to
Granted,
get.
they are more expensive than like if you're just renting a place without furniture, but you got to think about like how much it costs to furnish a place and get everything that you need to. Yeah, like Alex and I, when we started living together, we were 19 and
Mhm.
we literally got like a tiny $300 Walmart futon and we slept on it for like 8 months.
Oh my gosh, did you have back problems?
Oh yeah, and like I got the shitty side, so like
Oh
Alex
no.
got like the seated side, and I got the backrest part.
Oh no.
And so by the time that we actually got a mattress, we're like, man, we are like making moves in life. And then we got our apartment, we bought a bed frame. I'm like, we have fucking made it. We are adults.
Seriously.
We have a bed frame.
Seriously. Yeah, I definitely get that.
Yeah, so things to consider. What type of investment or strategy do you want to go in? Do you want to do like a short-term or vacation rental? Do you want to do the midterm college housing? Those are all things to consider, and you have to be considering like what type of area you're in. So if you're close to a college, maybe college housing is a good idea for you. If you are near a beach, vacation rental would be great. You just kind of have to think of like how expensive is it going to be to like rent out your unit? What are your costs? You have to do that cost benefit analysis and see what are you actually going to be able to make per night or per month, depending on the strategy that you're using. And how much are your utilities, your mortgage? How much does it cost to hire cleaners if that's something that you want to do? And is the area that you're in even like sought after? Or is long-term tenants really your only option? If you live in a bigger city, then short-term or midterm rentals, furnished rentals is a good option. But if you're way out in the middle of nowhere, that's just not going to be, you might have a lot of vacancy and it won't be worth it for you.
Yeah.
And then if you do have a short-term rental or vacation rental, you can think like, how can I make this a unique experience? I just got back from a trip in the North Shore, so like northern Minnesota, and I stayed in a yurt and it was really
I
cool.
seen that. That looked amazing.
Yeah, and so if you have like a plot of land and you want to make some money off of it, you don't necessarily need a house. You can build something like that, and that's such a cool experience that people don't get if they're just like staying in a hotel.
For
So,
sure.
yeah, think about like what can you offer that's different than other
Mm,
people.
I love that. Yeah.
Once you've sort of figured out your strategy and what your unique offerings are, then you can start thinking about what kind of theme or aesthetic you're going for. If you are doing something a little bit more long term, so like a midterm rental or like college housing, maybe you want to keep it a bit more neutral, just because you might be getting all sorts of people in there and they're not really looking for a unique experience. They're just looking for a place that they're going to be posting up for a while. And doing any like bold choices maybe will make people like certain people not want to stay there where other people might love it. But generally, the what I do with my furnished rentals is keeping it modern, keeping it clean, keeping it neutral, and then like maybe having a couple like accents of color here and there. But for the most part, also because it's my style and I don't like a lot of color, I'm going with like gray, white, black, just like monochrome.
Right. Right.
And if you are doing a short-term rental, then I think you can really have fun with it and do something like really quirky or super colorful or have like, your beach theme if that's the type of area that you're in. So yeah, that's the fun part of it, in my opinion. I really like the design and like aesthetics of creating furnished rentals.
I would love to stay at a Star Wars themed short-term rental because I am a huge Star Wars, and I think I've actually seen some like that. And I'm like, damn, that's like really cool. I would really want to stay there.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that I totally get where if you're doing it midterm, that's not going to appeal to a lot of people. So you want to just kind of keep it neutral.
Right. A Star Wars themed weekend sounds super cool.
Mm.
I don't know if I could do like 4 months of Star Wars themed.
Oh man, I definitely could.
I mean, to each their own.
Yeah.
Once you've sort of figured all of that out and you are actually setting up your listing, you're deciding on like what platforms you want to use. I suggest for short-term or mid-term rentals, Airbnb is great, Furnished Finder is great, especially for more like traveling professionals. VRBO is great for vacation rentals. Also, if you're doing short-term, we went into pretty good detail about this in my short-term and mid-term episode that I led. So if you haven't listened to that one, go back and listen to it if this is something that you're interested in. But other things that we had talked about was having a creative name if you're doing a short-term rental, doing something fun. I have the monochrome home because like I described earlier, that is the theme.
Right.
So yeah, going back with the theme and connecting that with your description and your name of the unit, just kind of keeping that cohesive. Otherwise, if it's targeting more like people who are coming here to work or traveling nurses, then that's also really good information to put in the title so people can filter like healthcare professionals. And since that's something that I offer, I'll put that directly in the title using those keywords.
Right.
You also just want to get really descriptive in the description. So talk about like the general vibe of your rental, the safety in the area, talk about amenities that are nearby. So if you're close to a bus stop, or that takes you into downtown or you're walking distance to a supermarket, that's really key information for people who are staying there a little bit longer, and describing the amenities that you offer in your listing or in your rental as well. And then just any other like cool positive features that are maybe different or that people might not expect when they initially are just searching for a furnished rental.
Right.
And then my tip would be when you are setting up your rental on any of these platforms or all of the platforms, you can list them in multiple places. Just make sure if you get a booking on one, you're blocking off the calendar on the other places too.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, that's a good tip. But yeah, just browse other listings that would be like your competitors in that area in the area. So if you have a 2-bedroom, 1-bath rental, just kind of look and see what else is out there. Like, are people doing things better than you? What are their pricing? What's the quality? What kind of amenities do they have? And that's a good starting point to figure out what your price point should be too with what you have to offer.
Good tips.
Mm-hmm. And then the fun things, when you're actually going to furnish your rental. So some of the must-haves, these are pretty obvious, so I won't spend a whole lot of time on these, but you obviously want some sort of bed and bedding. With short-term rentals, when I was in Germany in 2018, I stayed in a huge like circus tent that was filled with bunk beds. So it was 200 beds, 100 bunk beds, and they didn't offer like pillows or blankets or anything. So like you had to bring that. But
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Okay.
that was quite an experience. It was really fun. It
Yeah.
was cheap. Um, but if people are coming to your rental and staying for like, or it's like a full house or it's like a nice place or they're staying for a longer amount of time, you really want to like have bedding and extra pillows and things just provided for them.
Right. Yeah.
Other things is to have some sort of like couch or comfortable seating, have a TV, especially if people are traveling alone for work, like healthcare professionals, or if they're here on an internship. Having a TV is nice, just for something to do.
Yeah. Wind down
Yeah.
time.
Have your kitchen basics, so your pots, pans, bowls, glasses, cutlery. Like we talked in a previous episode, your cutting board, so people are cutting directly on your counters and leaving scratches. And then don't forget some of the niche things too, like having a bottle opener or a peeler or a colander. Those are things that kind of like we didn't even think about when we were buying furniture. Because like you have a lot to think about when you're furnishing an entire unit. So,
Yeah.
yeah, just kind of go through your own kitchen and say, like, what do I need? What do I use? And make sure you include those things in your rental as well.
I think like thinking about, especially when people come to vacation, a lot of them like to drink. So keeping like wine openers. I've like when I used to drink, and I would stay at Airbnbs, we would find that we wouldn't have any bottle openers or wine openers. So we'd have to go buy it for that like special occasion. So it's just really
Right.
nice to like think about those things. So like
the whole time. You don't have to go like buy additional things.
Yep, just have it there already and really like take some time to think about it. And I'm sure if you like Google lists of what do I need to provide in my furnished rental, I'm sure there are resources out there that'll
Mhm.
give you like a list item after list item of all the things.
For sure.
And then yeah, other things are towels, extra towels, and then it's always good to provide some consumables, whether you are doing a short-term rental or you're doing a midterm rental. For a short-term rental, you should be providing things like toilet paper and soap and like that kind of stuff, garbage bags. But for my midterm rentals, I will have enough just for them to like get by for like the
Hmm.
time being. And then I tell them once you run out of like your garbage bags or soap or toilet paper, that's your responsibility to refill those things. And that's on you. Like we're not
Yeah,
going
that
to
makes
provide.
sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so those are some of just like the must-haves. And then some of the nice to haves when you're setting up a rental is maybe like a desk or workstation. You can get like a really small laptop desk, and that's just especially if people are working, like going to work like remote and are just traveling, having a
Mhm.
workstation is super key. I would suggest having a like a power strip so they can plug in multiple things that'll reach a little bit farther. Having a laundry option. I know that it's maybe not realistic depending on your situation to have in-unit washer and dryers, but if you at least have an option that's like in the building or something like that, that's just really nice to have, especially free. You know,
Mhm.
if people don't have to like bring coins because who carries coins with them anymore?
You're right.
Yeah, just super appreciated.
Hmm.
Other nice to haves would be like a coffee maker. Again, your consumables, I would say taking this a step further, if you offer like some coffee or if you offer like shampoo and conditioner, any fancy drinks that you leave in the fridge for them to like show up and enjoy, or oil and seasonings for cooking, things like that. Sort of going like the extra step is really nice, especially for short-term rentals.
Hmm.
And then I debated putting this one on the must have versus nice to have. Decorative features like wall art, like shelf trinkets, and just things to like make the space feel nice, like fake plants and things like that. It just
Hmm.
makes it cozier, and maybe it's not necessary. People can get by without those things, but I think they'll just have a lot better experience if you've put some time and effort into making it feel like a home.
Right. When I was in Puerto Rico, I stayed at a Airbnb and they had a little table that they had like a little note stand and it said leave a thing behind for this place. So there was a whole bunch of things that people left behind, like a book or like a painting or like seashells and stuff like that. And you weren't allowed to take anything. But I thought it was really cool with the theme of where we were because it was the beach and it was just kind of like a relaxing type of like hippy dippy like vibe. So having things like that just really like I still think about it
Yeah.
obviously, so just think about things that are impressionable to the people that are coming to stay at your place.
Exactly. That's so cute. I love that idea. Also having like a guest book. When I ran a short-term
Mm-hmm.
rental, I had a guest book in there, and so people can like flip back and look at all the nice things that people said. We had
Yeah.
people who were staying there like after their wedding night, and they're traveling through town with their family. We
Yeah.
hosted a family who was having Thanksgiving in our rental, and so you just get to
Oh,
see all of the experiences that people are having in your unit, and so that's really cool for people who are traveling to be like, wow, like look at all the things that have happened here. But also as
for
a
sure.
host, that just like makes you feel so good because like, wow, people are like enjoying this space and using it and it's appreciated.
For sure, yes.
And then just a couple of other things that might be nice to have are like a hair dryer or an iron and ironing board, especially if people again are traveling for work in the area and like need to look nice. Lastly, I will leave you with a couple of tips. So, tip number one, I love IKEA furniture. I think that they actually have really nice, like styled things. It's maybe not like the best quality of everything, but we really haven't run into issues with running short-term or mid-term rentals, having furnished units for a couple of years. Things have been holding up and we
Yeah.
have a lot of turnover. Yeah, and it's also, I think the biggest thing for me is that it's easy to assemble. People
Mm,
always talk about IKEA furniture and being like, oh, you gotta like get on your like science thinking brain to figure out how to put these things together. But I think their instructions and how they've like manufactured all the pieces is so smart that it's
yeah.
really not that hard to figure out. And I've gotten furniture from like Amazon or Wayfair or Overstock.com, and it's a fucking nightmare to put
Yeah.
together. I'm like drilling holes and things that like should have probably been like pre-drilled.
Yeah.
So I would say maybe avoid some of those sites. Just go with like the majority of the things. Go with IKEA or something similar that's like an affordable option. You don't need to spend a ton of money, but just make it look nice.
I think people forget how affordable and nice that IKEA is. I don't get the people that don't like IKEA. I mean, just spend a day there and you're gonna fall in love, I swear.
Yeah.
They have so many different options, and we've had IKEA items that have lasted for years and years. And unless like you're beating it to shit, then it
Mhm.
should hold. I don't get that, but to each
Yeah.
their own.
Yeah, to each their own. Yeah, I think also just like spending a day in IKEA is really
Mm,
fun because it's just like such a maze of like all sorts of things. They have like their lighting section and their fake
yes,
plants and their office stuff.
yes.
And we can look at like kitchen cabinets and it's just such an experience. And they have some really good vegan hot dogs, which like
Ooh.
doesn't sound very good, but I promise it is.
Yeah, yeah, it's a whole experience there. And if you are a person that loves to renovate, your real estate involved and all that, and you have a significant other, that's a really cute date idea.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
highly suggest. We've done it as just like an outing for the day, and we've gotten lunch there, and
Yeah.
they
Mhm.
have all the cute little setups of like different types of rooms, and it's just super cute and super fun. So highly suggest IKEA.
Yeah, highly suggest. They have it's like a fun way to get like inspiration for your own
Mm,
spaces too.
yes.
So yes, IKEA top of my list.
Yes.
And then another tip would just be if you have your rental set up or you're kind of looking at it and wondering, is this finished? Think about, is this a place you would want to stay? If yes,
Mm,
then good job, especially if you're picky and it's a place that you'd want to stay, then great job. And if
yeah,
not, then just think about like what else do you need to add to make it a place that you actually want to be staying in.
valid for sure.
Yes. And then as far as amenities go, I know that can get kind of overwhelming. Airbnb, their platform is awesome. I love Airbnb. So just browse. They have a whole giant list of amenities of like over 100 things. So if you're wondering what else do I need to put in this unit, just browse that list and you can start ticking them off. Another tip would be when you get your first tenants in, you may have forgotten some items, just let them know and you can phrase it like this in an exciting way and say like, hey, you guys are like the first people to stay here. It's super exciting. We're like super happy to have you. But because you are the first people to stay here, we don't know if maybe we missed something. So if you find at any point during your stay that there's something that you need that's not included, then just let us know and we will get that for you.
And I feel like that is such a nice thing to say in general. Like, even if you think that you have everything in there, it's just super nice to know that like they're okay to reach out to you, and that line of open communication is there. So I love that you do that.
Yeah, exactly. And then also in the lines of like furniture and figuring out like what you all need from your unit, you can browse like Facebook Marketplace or search your like local real estate groups for people are selling their things all the time. So you might get like a really good deal on a couch, or there might be a super nice vanity or dresser
Yeah.
that is going to cost way less when you're getting it secondhand, but might be really good quality. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, this worked out personally really, really well for Alex and I after we had furnished our first rental, which we ran as an Airbnb, and then we switched to midterm rentals and bought our second duplex and moved into it. We were looking for, so we spent for a 2 bedroom, 1 bath place with a full kitchen. I think we spent like $7,000 furnishing that unit, which was a lot, but with what we were making, we're like, within a year, this will all be paid off. After a year, we're going to be making a profit on it.
Right.
Um, so we started looking at like, well, what do we all need to furnish this new unit that is now sitting empty? And we were on our local real estate group, and someone in Minneapolis was selling all of the furniture in their Airbnb because they were selling their duplex or I
Right.
think it was actually a single family home, but they had a whole bunch of rooms that they rented out individually. And
Oh,
they were selling everything in it because they were selling the place and consolidating into like an apartment complex. And so
right.
we got an amazing deal on a king bed, a twin, a full, and a queen. So like four beds,
Mhm.
like several dressers, nightstands, pots and pans, like rugs, a big kitchen table, and six chairs, and literally everything that we could have needed, other than just like a couple of things that like wasn't included, but like even wall art, everything. So we got this whole big, huge furniture package, and I think we paid like $3,500 for it, which is
No
literally half the
way.
cost of what we used to set up a two-bed, one-bath rental.
Oh my gosh, that is so amazing. And you
It
said
was
that that was,
such good timing. Yeah.
yeah. And you said that was a Facebook group?
Yep, it was
Wow.
yeah, we were in a millennial real estate investors group on Facebook,
Oh
and
my God, I
I
love
happened to
that.
see the post, and we're like, we need that. It furnished our so our unit over at the other place that we moved out of, it furnished our basement unit, and we
Mm,
even had a couple of extra things to put in our main floor unit here when we moved out.
wow.
So that like saved us so much money. And that,
I,
like, again, when you're thinking about your cost benefit analysis on how much you are going to be spending to furnish it versus how much money you can make, if you can get a lot of that stuff secondhand, it really helps a lot and you'll start making money back on it a lot faster.
there's nothing wrong with getting it secondhand either. I mean, some of these people have barely used it
Yep.
or it's in really good condition. I mean, as long as you're not getting like raggedy, broken down things, then there
Right.
shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. Just like go before committing to it, go and look at the stuff. And then if it all works out, you can negotiate with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And then my last tip that I will leave all of our listeners with who are setting up or considering setting up a furnished rental is have a plan B. So, furnished rentals have worked out really well for my strategy, given the area that I'm in, given the people that I'm targeting. But you might find that it's not a good fit for you, that a short-term rental isn't really working out, or it's becoming too demanding, but maybe midterm rentals or college housing isn't something that is doable for you either. Make sure that you have a plan to transition your rental into something that's a bit more sustainable. So, my biggest tip when buying a property, and if you're planning on going this route, when you run your numbers, run them for regular, long term, unfurnished rentals and make sure that those numbers make sense. I also like to include property management costs, even though I'm
Mhm.
not currently using those, but knowing that you will still cash flow despite not making more money doing a furnished rental or all of that is going to be key, because if a furnished rental doesn't work out for you and suddenly you have all this furniture that you need to sell, but then the numbers not running a short-term rental doesn't make sense, that's just not a good place to be in. So make sure you do your due diligence and have a plan if things don't work out.
Right. That's a really, really good tip and a really great way to end off this episode. So great job with all of that. I'm sure that's going to help so many people out.
Yeah, thank you. I like I've said in previous episodes, when we jumped into this whole real estate thing and we're like, let's run a short-term rental, I wish that I had listened to a lot of the tips on this podcast. So
Yeah.
hopefully people find that helpful.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to continue on next week with a little bit of more real estate information. I'm going to cover mailers. So it is going to be a really great way to connect with. It's essentially like cold calling, but not. So if you want to learn more, check out next week's episode because it's going to give you the whole deep dive of what I do with mailers.
Yes, I am so excited for that because it's something that Alex and I have talked about doing ourselves, but never really knew where to start or how to go about it. So, super excited. Hopefully, our listeners will tune in next week as well. But thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode. We're super
Yeah.
excited to have you here, and we will see you next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye. Passive Aggressive Income was written, recorded, edited, and produced by co-hosts and creators Mims and Lexie. We truly want to thank our listeners, collaborators, friends, and family that continuously support us for all the love we receive. If you enjoy our show, please give us a glowing rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, follow us on Facebook and Instagram to see what we are up to. For any inquiries, please email passiveaggressiveincome2023@gmail.com. Episodes of Passive Aggressive Income are available wherever you listen to podcasts, so make sure to subscribe and like us on your favorite streaming platform.